Hello, everyone. You clicked on this video because you love horror, the supernatural, and the kind of stories that make you question what's lurking in the shadows. Well, you're in for a ride. What I'm about to share with you isn't just another urban legend or a creepy campfire story. No, this is something I lived, something I saw, and to this day I wish I hadn't. It all started with a rumor, a story about an abandoned military bunker deep in the woods, the kind of place that feels more myth than reality. People in the nearby town whispered about strange noises coming from the forest at night. Some claimed they'd seen strange lights flickering between the trees, while others swore the place was cursed. But what drew me in, what hooked me, was the story of people who entered the bunker and never came back the same. Some went missing entirely. Others returned, changed. It sounded like the perfect setup for a video. I mean, who wouldn't click on exploring a haunted military bunker? What I found will shock you. The Cold War connection only added to the intrigue. Government secrets, maybe some experiments gone wrong. It practically screamed content gold. But I wasn't ready for what I found. No amount of research or preparation could have prepared me. Let me take you back to the beginning. The first challenge was finding the bunker. I tracked down a map online, one of those blurry, third-generation scans with barely legible coordinates scribbled in the margins. But the internet had delivered. After an hour of hiking through thick undergrowth and dodging branches that clawed at my face, I found it. First, I almost walked past it. The bunker entrance was hidden, almost like the earth itself was trying to swallow it whole. Thick moss and vines covered what turned out to be massive metal doors, rusted from decades of exposure to the elements. They were slightly ajar, just enough to tease me with a sliver of darkness beyond. When I pushed the doors open, the sound they made, it was like the earth itself groaned in protest. A long, metallic screech that echoed into the forest, making me pause and glance behind me. It was as if the forest didn't want me to go in, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. The air that poured out of the opening was cold, unnaturally so, and carried a strange metallic tang. It clung to my skin, raising goosebumps. But I'd come this far. Turning back wasn't an option. Inside, my flashlight revealed walls streaked with peeling paint and covered in a damp grime that glistened in the light. The air smelled of mildew, rust, and something else I couldn't place. Something faintly sharp like ozone, but darker. I moved cautiously, the sound of my footsteps eerily loud in the silence. As I ventured further, the corridors became narrower, more oppressive, as if the bunker itself was closing in on me. It was about 20 minutes in when I noticed the graffiti. At first, it seemed harmless enough, typical urban explorer tags. But then I noticed the patterns. They didn't look like graffiti anymore. They looked deliberate. Symbols I couldn't understand, scrawled in jagged lines that seemed almost alive in the flashlight's beam. And the words, "Don't wake it. It's still here. God forgive us." That last one was smeared in what looked disturbingly like dried blood. And then there was the streak, a dark, rusty red trail leading further into the bunker. My stomach turned as I realized it wasn't paint. I don't know what possessed me to follow it. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe stupidity, or maybe it was something else, something pulling me deeper. The trail led to a door marked restricted access. The lettering was faded, but someone had scrawled "Danger" across it in shaky handwriting. The handle was cold, almost freezing to the touch. As the door creaked open, the air inside changed immediately, felt thicker, like walking into a room submerged in water. My ears popped, and a faint hum vibrated through my body, almost too low to hear but impossible to ignore. The room was massive, far larger than I expected. My flashlight's beam struggled to reach the walls. Rusted machinery sat in rows, covered in dust and cobwebs. Overturned desks were scattered across the floor, some with papers still clinging to their surfaces. But the center of the room, the center was what made my heart stop. A black, viscous stain spread across the floor, radiating outward in jagged, uneven streaks. Surrounding it were bones, human bones, not ancient, crumbling skeletons like you might find in an old graveyard. No, these were fresh, white and clean, as if something had stripped them bare. And then there were the pods. Lining the walls were rows of glass pods, each one large enough to hold a person. The glass was fogged with age, but I could see claw marks on the inside, long, deep gouges that had splintered the material. My flashlight caught smudges on the glass, smears of what looked like old blood. There were 6 pods in total, all empty. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been kept here, something that wasn't supposed to get out. My breath hitched as I realized the claw marks weren't from people trying to get in. They were from whatever was inside trying to get out. And then I heard it. A metallic clang echoed through the bunker, sharp and sudden. It wasn't close, but it wasn't far either. My chest tightened as the sound repeated, followed by a low, guttural growl that reverberated through the walls. I swung my flashlight around, the beam shaking with my trembling hands. That's when I saw the footprints. Bare, human-like, but distorted, elongated toes ending in sharp points. They were pressed into the dust on the floor, leading away from the pods and deeper into the bunker. Then came the footsteps. First, I couldn't see it. The darkness seemed to shift and writhe, as if the shadows themselves were alive. Then my flashlight caught movement. A shape crawling on all fours, its body gaunt and unnatural. Its skin was pale, almost translucent, stretched tight over bones that jutted out at odd angles. And its eyes, black, bottomless pits that seemed to drink in the light, leaving nothing behind. It moved like a broken marionette, limbs jerking unnaturally, its head tilting as if trying to study me. And then it spoke. "Why did you come?" The voice was wrong, layered, echoing, like a dozen voices speaking at once. My mind screamed at me to run, but my body was frozen, paralyzed by its gaze. When the creature took its first, deliberate step toward me, a primal wave of terror ripped through my paralysis. My body reacted before my mind caught up. I spun on my heel and ran. The bunker seemed to twist around me as if it were alive, its corridors narrowing and stretching in impossible ways. Every turn looked the same: gray walls, rusted piping, and peeling paint. But I knew I was moving deeper instead of closer to the exit. The air grew colder with every step, biting through my clothes and chilling my lungs. Behind me, the thing followed. Its footsteps were slow, deliberate, each one accompanied by the metallic scrape of claws against concrete. Its breathing was worse, wet, ragged, and too close. I could feel its presence like icy fingers trailing up my spine, as if it wasn't just behind me but in my head, rooting itself into my thoughts. I turned a corner and felt hope flicker when I saw a faint shaft of light. The entrance. I bolted toward it, legs burning, lungs screaming for air. As I ran, I felt the weight of its gaze. It wasn't running. It didn't need to. Somehow, it knew the bunker itself was working against me. But then, the air shifted. The walls didn't seem so endless anymore, and the light at the end of the corridor sharpened into view. I threw myself through the open metal doors, nearly tripping on the uneven forest ground. The cold, fresh air hit me like a punch, snapping me back to reality. I didn't stop. Not when the doors groaned shut behind me. Not when the forest seemed to stretch forever. I didn't look back. Not even once until I was in my car. My hands trembled as I fumbled with the keys, and when the engine roared to life, I sped away without caring about the narrow dirt road or the trees crowding in on either side. I wanted to believe it was over. I told myself I had escaped. But even now, as I replay that night over and over in my mind, I can still hear its voice. "You'll be back. They always come back." It's been days, but the fear hasn't left me. Every shadow seems deeper now, every sound in the night sharper and more sinister. I don't know what that thing was or why it spoke to me, but one thing is clear: it wasn't supposed to leave, and I wasn't supposed to find it. Whatever happened in that bunker, whatever they were trying to contain, they failed. And I can't shake the feeling that it's not done, that it's out there somewhere waiting. So if you ever hear about a place like that, hidden deep in the woods, shrouded in mystery, and dripping with danger, please stay away. Some secrets are meant to remain buried. If the story gave you chills, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. This channel dives into the strangest, most terrifying tales out there, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Have you ever encountered something you can't explain? Share your story in the comments. I might just feature it in an upcoming video. Until next time, stay curious, but most importantly, stay safe.